As we go to air tonight, a fire is threatening the town of Eden on the far south coast. Communities right along the south coast are isolated, with roads closed and electricity cut off. Over the past 24 hours, there's been widespread damage. Homes have been lost at Batlow, northwest of the Kosciuszko National Park, at Bundanoon and Wingello in the Southern Highlands, further east at Kangaroo Valley and at Nowra on the south coast. A man has died after suffering a heart attack while helping to defend a property at Batlow. In Cooma, south of Canberra, homes were flooded when a massive water tank exploded, releasing millions of litres of water. This afternoon, hundreds taking refuge on the wharf at Eden were ordered to leave the area as it was no longer safe to stay. Hamish McDonald joins us now from Mogo on the south coast. Hamish, how are things looking there tonight?
Well, Juanita, today has really revealed the true scale of the devastation right across large chunks of New South Wales. And there is a new emergency unfolding tonight, which is that communities already hit by fires are now cut off by roads. They're also lost power and they're running out of fuel and food pretty quickly. There's also continued active fire fronts across much of the state, and one of the places that has faced the most difficulty today has been Eden on the far south coast. Communities around the border area have been staring down that fire that's moved up and across the Victorian border. Our reporter Phil Williams was among those who were forced out of Eden today. We can talk to him live in Bega tonight. Extraordinary scenes out of Eden. Trying to escape along with everybody
Absolutely.
else.
Yes, absolutely extraordinary. It's been a bad 24 hours for the people of Eden. The good news is that fire has just been downgraded to watch and act, and we may get some rain, and that would be a godsend. But what a day it's been. The residents slept overnight, many of them down at the beach or down at an oval, and many hundreds opted for the wharf. They were told later on by the police that wasn't a safe option, and that the best option for those that wanted to leave was to go now and get out of town. And that really caused some tension, and of course in a town that already was suffering from high anxiety. Here's how the day transpired.
Overnight, the fire crept ever closer to Eden. The small town of Kaya just south was hard hit. Adam Fleeton left his Kaya bush block just before the firestorm hit. He thinks his house is gone.
We've got all our personal photos and stuff like that, so we've got each other, and that's the main thing.
Like many, he retreated to the nearby Eden Wharf. People sheltered in boats. Tugs became protective arcs.
This tug has the capacity to put a curtain of water around the whole thing, so I don't feel that we're in danger.
Many others slept in their cars or didn't sleep at all, sticking close to the water just in case.
Fairly safe in this area, plenty of water around us, so I think we're fairly safe.
Others sought security at a football oval and quickly organised their own fire protection system.
We all came together and we had group leaders basically, and we all had our own little job to do.
As the winds picked up, so too did the anxiety.
These homes are on the edge of Eden, and look what they're doing just across the road. They're trying to get as big a gap between the bush and those homes as possible, and the work is urgent.
At the wharf, officials warned everyone it was not a safe place to stay. Many heeded the advice to head north while the road was still open.
When the police said that the intensity of the heat will get us before the flags, that was enough for me. Good luck, guys. Thanks heaps.
The decision to stay or go, not an easy one.
The roads are really busy, John. If we get stuck between the roads, what do we do? At least we've got the water here.
For many fleeing the fire, Bega and Merimbula offered safety, for now at least.
My safety for my kids is most important, so yeah, even though like Pamela is there, but it's still just a bit too close.
Nothing could escape the choking smoke. Even these vital firefighters were grounded at Merimbula Airport because of it. For those who remain in Eden, there is no sunset, there will be no dawn, just the dark orange fear and uncertainty hanging over everything. Philip Williams, ABC News, Eden.
Well, that's the picture at the far southeastern corner of the state. Let's move a little further north now to the Southern Highlands. Overnight last night, a fire that was burning, a huge fire that was burning north of us here just near Bateman's Bay, jumped the Shoalhaven River. It moved in towards Kangaroo Valley and up towards parts of the Southern Highlands, including Bundanoon. Joanna Woodburn has this report from there.
John Harland was among the few who chose to stay and defend his home when the fire bore down on Wingellow last night.
I just sort of put too much, last 35 years into this place, and I wasn't going without a fight.
He managed to hold off the flames. His neighbours weren't as lucky. To the east in Budgong, the intensity of the fire caught residents by surprise.
So I ran around like a blue-ass fly. Sprinklers everywhere, hose and everything, spot fires happened everywhere. And the next thing, it come from the west, it come flying up through here, and it was like World War III, explosions everywhere.
People were ordered to leave last night as the Currawong fire intensified. The flames were indiscriminate, engulfing some houses and sparing others. As morning dawned, locals were anxious to get home.
We could see the cloud building up behind us, which was quite scary, I guess, in many ways. So when the fire came through, it was really, quite nerve-wracking.
Nearby at Bundanoon, the eastern edge of the town caught the brunt of the fire.
It's quite extensive around here. It looks like the 4 properties are total losses, along with the shed.
Fire crews were called here to this house in Bundanoon to help mop up after the blaze tore through last night. They were asked to come to this site to help render it safe because some of the gas bottles that were at the house were still alight.
At least 5 homes have been destroyed in Kangaroo Valley, but the RFS says that figure could rise. Sydney hasn't been spared as firefighters work to contain a bushfire burning dangerously close to homes. Joanna Woodburn, ABC News, Bundanoon.
Well, let's take you live now to Bundanoon, where Joe Woodburn is standing by. Joe, it's fair to say, I think, that many of those residents who'd fled overnight and returned earlier today were completely shocked by what they found.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was an anxious wait to get in, and those who were able to get into Wingellow, which is to the west of here in Bundanoon, and to Bundanoon itself, were met with scenes of, well, disaster, really. Their homes lost or damaged. Tonight, the conditions are starkly different to what they were yesterday evening. Last night, we were still in the mid-30s around this time, and it was hot and dry. And that fire, that Moreton fire, was just moving northwards to eventually impact Bundanoon and Wingellow. Tonight, as I said, it's cold. It's about 12 degrees. There's a light rain falling, but the firefighters are not complaining about this weather. It's helping them dampen down the fire and mop up some of those homes that have been destroyed. Firefighters still outnumber the residents, though, here in Bundanoon. As you mentioned, very few people have been able to get back in, and a lot of the people who were told to evacuate did get out last night.
Joanna Woodburn live for us in Bundanoon tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Let's now take you a bit further inland and to the west of the Snowy Mountains. Fire absolutely ripped through some of the small communities there, including the town of Batlow. A warning in this report, there are some disturbing images. Our reporter Tom Lowry is there.
We're just hearing these big bangs.
Batlow residents had feared this fire would come for days.
We think that might be the servo.
The few who stayed behind to fight it were stunned by its ferocity.
It was horrendous. It was, very, very, very intimidating, but we never lost our nerve.
A few dozen residents joined firefighters defending those properties that could be defended. Tragically, a 47-year-old man who'd travelled to Batlow to help friends was killed.
This fellow wasn't feeling well. There was a decision to transport them for medical attention. In the transport to medical attention, they've suffered what appears to be a cardiac arrest.
Homes were lost, as were businesses, but most were saved.
You pick your targets, pick your battles. We chose what we could save, houses that were defendable, and we just had to treat it as triage.
On the outskirts of town, awful scenes of devastation. Hundreds of animals perished, mostly livestock, from surrounding properties. They littered the sides of the road heading into Batlow.
For the farmers themselves, that's their livelihood. They certainly look after their livestock, and they value their livestock extremely, highly, and they're precious. And so they're devastated.
Those living in Batlow knew the fire was coming well in advance. Most took the option to leave ahead of yesterday. But with the fire still burning and trees blocking part of the road, it will likely be several days before they can return home and see the damage for themselves. In nearby Adelong, scenes of relief. A town spared what the fire could have delivered.
Pretty happy about that. Had a long sleepless night out on the front lawn on a camp bed, just watching all the glow and making sure we didn't get any spot fires.
But this fire is still burning, and authorities are hesitant to say the worst has passed. Tom Lowry, ABC News, Batlow.
Well, in the Snowy Mountains themselves, multiple communities came under ferocious attack from fire throughout the day yesterday. The fire services are being credited with saving towns like Adaminaby, where there were atrocious conditions. But in Cooma itself, there was a very different kind of emergency when a water reservoir in North Cooma exploded, it would seem, late last night. Elizabeth Byrne has this report from where 4.5 million litres of water poured onto the streets, creating a whole new challenge for the emergency services.
The residents barely knew what hit them. The tank exploded, sending water coursing down the hill, flattening trees and carrying cars in its path. The force of the water was so great, it picked up a concrete driveway slab, sending it sailing down the street.
Initially, we just heard a loud explosion, and I thought someone's car or a gas tank had exploded, and came out the front and there was water everywhere.
The water tank is one of two above Cooma. It had leaked for a long time but was filled because of the fear of fires on the ridge.
There was to be some minor repairs on it. There has been a contract set out on this building, but on this structure. But and it had held water a couple of years ago full, and for some reason it's just given way.
The council did the right thing here to fill their reservoir up. That, all the engineering reports did lend itself that it was right to do so.
The town was already coated with mud and ash after a fire-generated storm earlier in the day. The unexpected flood only added to the mess, left to those who've spent the day clearing out their destroyed belongings.
Everything in the shed is covered with mud, so we're talking about a lot of kids' toys, a lot of IT gear, my precious Lego.
Residents in this street have been on fire alert for days, but no one imagined the real danger from the ridge above would be water. Today's clean-up effort has been hampered by cold and smoky conditions and now rain. Elizabeth Byrne, ABC News, Cooma.
Well, such is the nature of this rolling emergency across the state. Many people are really only just starting to come to terms with the level of damage that has been wrought on entire communities. A lot of people are only just now getting to return to their homes. Here in Mogo itself, we've seen people this afternoon coming to survey the damage to their own properties, their own businesses. The ABC's Philippa McDonald has spent the afternoon with one man in the settlement of Catalina, just south of Bateman's Bay. His home was burnt down on New Year's Eve, and he's just going back today for the first time.
Steve Williams escaped to the beach with just the clothes on his back.
It went up from a candle to somebody throwing a cup of petrol on it, and then seconds later, like somebody threw a drum of petrol on it, the house just exploded.
The conditions here today are a far cry from those on New Year's Eve, where the ferocity and the intensity of this bushfire destroyed half the homes in this small cul-de-sac. What's running through your mind seeing your house right now?
Emptiness. I can't describe it. It's just nothing there.
The kitchen table is a twisted mess amidst the rubble, the barbecue and a ham still in the esky.
So what am I going to do? I don't know. As in accommodation, and I believe there's very little, there won't be any. There'll be no accommodation around here for a long time.
Steve says much more could have been done to prepare.
That bush has been not touched in 7-8 years. Now, if they had have done a backburn or whatever it is they do there, there's 7 houses here just total, and it could have saved them.
Steve has emphysema and diabetes, and like hundreds here, he's now homeless. You're 72, you've been through life's ups and downs. Where does this sit?
I would say it was pretty high on the chart. In fact, it was probably number 1.
He swears he'll never live near a heavily wooded area again.
It's just too emotional for me.
Philippa McDonald, ABC News, Catalina.